What's up? This is Parker Jameson from the band Starkill.
Hey, this is Tim Ripper Owens.
This is Brittany Slays from Unleash the Archers.
Hey, this is David Rivera from Ex Mortis.
This is Vicky Sarakis from The Agonist, and you're listening to The Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Welcome, Great Metal Debate listeners. Tonight we have Michael Uhlig with us from the band Deviance. Michael, welcome to the Great Metal Debate.
Hey Brian, nice to be here with you tonight.
Michael, for some of the listeners that don't know as much about you and about Deviance, what I'd like you to do is just kind of give us a little brief history of Michael Uhlig and take us up to that point where you got to Deviance.
All right, so basically I started music right when I was 14, on my 14th birthday. I've been wanting to get into it before then. When I was about 19, I started playing music, and then I started playing original music and bands and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved to Seattle and played for some decent bands over there.
What are some of those bands you played for out there?
The one that really comes to mind that I got signed by a small label with is Thorns and Thrones.
Oh, okay.
I was with them for a while. It was a post-hardcore band, so I was in the heavier music.
Uh-huh. And
then I was in a few other different bands that were, jazz-based or funk-based in Seattle. And then I moved to, after Iraq, came back to Seattle, and then I moved to Kansas. And from there, I joined, I played in a few bands, went to Afghanistan, came back to Kansas, went to a pretty predominant band called Rise of the Fallen, where I played lead guitar for those guys.
I see. What kind of music was that?
That was one of the lines of, I would say, old school death metal mixed with a few new school death metal influences. I guess after I got out of the military, after Afghanistan, I was doing Rise of the Fallen, and I came to Louisville to go to school at U of L, and I joined Mount Trauma for nearly a year, and then about that time, September of 2014, I started Deviance.
Okay. So you've been in, this is not your first rodeo. You've been playing for a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I have a little bit of experience.
Now, I kind of fiddle fart around with music and instruments and that sort of thing. Were you serious about it from the get-go? I mean, like you said, you started at 14. Did you know, hey, this is something I'm going to do, and it's something I'm going to do for a while?
I thought about it more long-term than, it wasn't about, playing covers and trying to pick up on girls. It was more about, being influenced by certain musicians, certain artwork, and trying to expand and elevate myself in that type of artwork.
Right. But so you started with guitar, is that correct?
Yes, I started with electric guitar, and then a few years later, when I was like 20, I ran through acoustic and mandolin and stuff like that. Excellent. And I just started expanding more and more with instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah, which brings us to your current band, because you play the majority of instruments on the Deviance album. Why don't you tell us about Deviance?
All right, so Deviance is a progressive, technical death metal band, hybrid of those two genres of music, progressive and technical, with the death metal bass and some other orchestral and jazzy type things in there too.
Right.
I play everything except the drums. I write all the music. You'll hear, obviously vocals. You hit lead and rhythm guitars, bass, cello, violin, synth, organ, drums. And I might have missed a few things, I don't know.
When you play so many, when you're pretty much it and another guy on the album, there's some things you might miss. So this was a labor of love for you, actually. And which brings me kind of to the, when I first heard the Deviance music, it was intense. I definitely noticed the progressive and the technical death metal part of it. But then, you started sharing some of your tracks, and I know you personally. We've talked before, and I see a lot of tough stuff coming out of you and into your music. I'll just say, I think your military comes out a lot in your music, or the experiences you had there. Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially, I was, a sniper for 6 years, special operations. So the lyrics are very straightforward, very raw, and I have a few songs about my experience of being a sniper in the military. And my lyrics.
What was your latest share? What was the name of that latest share that you had that song?
So it's two songs I shared in the one video. The first one's called Subsist, which is it's kind of a philosophical type meaning to maintain oneself at a minimum level.
Right.
And that one's very progressive death metal.
Well,
and then the second part of that song is called Stoicism.
And the two fit excellently together. All right, so Michael, you always have a lot of music experience. What were some of your influences? What kind of got you started? What kind of got you progressing?
So the influences that got me started as a kid was the obvious Slayer, Metallica, and Megadeth, stuff like that. But the major influences behind Deviance, the major ones are bands like Cynic, Obscura, Death, Woodchuck, Spawn of Possession, Edge of Sanity, and Aglock. There's also some atmospheric influences outside of metal, like folks like Joe Pass, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, Vivaldi, Miles Davis, Stravinsky, Tchaikovsky, and many others like that.
So we've got the whole spectrum of analysis here. We've got anywhere from thrash metal to the creation of death metal with the actual death band to classical music written hundreds of years ago. I mean, your musical tastes span quite a bit of area there.
Yes, that's very true.
Do you actually listen to all those types of music away from like recording or something?
Yeah, I listen to Cynic and Aglock all the time. I go to their shows. I even go to a lot of the orchestra shows. Like I go to the Louisville Orchestra, the Kentucky Orchestra, and they play like Vivaldi, Beethoven, and Mozart, Brahms, and stuff like that.
Right. So the Cynic and the Agalock, there's a lot of progressive metal influence there too.
Yeah, a lot of nice drawn out progressive songs.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. I mean, those are all great influences, and I would think that playing the guitar and the intricacy that you have to play prog metal, you have to have the classical influence.
Yeah, for certain aspects, that's definitely true.
Is that how you learn to change all the different time signatures? Do you use that kind of, do you use that classical change, or is that prevalent throughout guitar?
I think that's just what I enjoy, actually.
Okay.
I write weird stuff in my head, and then, I might be in class and I write some weird off-timing riff in my head.
Right.
I go hours later and, come up with some other idea, and by the end of the night, I actually put it onto music.
Now, for the Great Metal Debate listeners that haven't heard or seen from Deviance, I encourage you to get to this video. Subsist and Stoicism, did I say it right?
Yes, that's right.
Those are two songs together, and you can look it up on YouTube. And when you say that it was kind of deep, I think that's an understatement. You say some really personal things about the things you experienced when you were at war, and it's really quite moving. Some of it's disturbing. Some of it is. I can't imagine putting that much of yourself onto paper and into music. Was it cathartic, or was it emotional? Did it rip open scars? How do you explain that?
It's definitely emotional. I wanted to portray that in Deviance because that's part of what I want to throw out there. And I think it helps me. Like I played a few shows and I talked about this song to a few people, and it led to deeper conversations with all. Having mental disorder like PTSD, it's
Yes.
for some people it's better to talk to people about it. And I get into some moods to where, I don't want to talk about it, but it always helps to talk about it every once in a while with people. And
Does the music help?
definitely, yeah. I mean, it obviously adds to the aggression of death metal, so that never hurts.
Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive song. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty messed up stuff in the lyrics, especially with Subsist. I always also have a more straightforward, less disturbing song, Bereft of Life. That's more about my time as a sniper. But Subsist, I mean, that song is talking more about PTSD, my time in Afghanistan, where...
Well, I mean, it's certainly not the only type of song on the album. I mean, you have songs about belief or lack thereof. You have songs about your experience as a sniper. You have songs about, like you talked about the PTSD. I mean, there's a wide array of music on that album. How many tracks are on that album?
It's 11 tracks, roughly about 50, maybe a little bit longer, 50 minutes, something like that. 11 tracks.
Yeah. I mean, and it's some deep stuff, but it's some enjoyable stuff musically too. I mean, it kind of has a contrast. I mean, the music reflects the lyrics a lot, but there are parts in it that are. I mean, I could definitely hear your jazz influence in some of it even.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely, especially my chord progressions are very jazz based, and my weird time signatures back and forth and whatnot. That's very jazz based.
Yeah, well, it's excellent music. Now, it's been out for, you released it on May the what?
May 1st, Friday, May 1st.
Friday, May 1st, and you've had a pretty good response to it, dude.
Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. Better than I expected, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, and for a musician, that's putting out their first album, obviously not your first album, but your first solo, not really even solo, your first attempt, just you putting it all together, it's difficult. Do you think it's worth it?
I mean, I have a passion for art, and I enjoy it. I would do it no matter what the response is, but like you said, I think the response is real well. Which, coming from Louisville, you're basically in the Bible Belt. I'm talking about songs about philosophy, religion in a philosophical way. I'm talking about songs about, child brides, Subsist, where I talk about, picking my good friend's brains up off the ground after he killed himself, stuff like that. So you never know how people are going to accept that around here.
Yeah, it's intense. I mean, and I don't know what we're going to do with you godless atheists. We're just not going to have to let you stop writing music or change our beliefs, right?
I guess so. It's up to you.
Yeah, I can say that to Michael because we sometimes have a back and forth. So let's look to the future a little bit. What do you want to do with Deviance? You want to keep writing albums for it? You want to change your style, or what are your plans for it?
I want to get more in depth with what I've already accomplished and go even further. I really don't want to discuss in detail what the next album is going to be like, because I'm probably going to release it in like 2.5 years. But I guess some of my goals are the hardest thing, the greatest thing that I want to accomplish is reach an open-minded fan base of things like jazz, philosophy, metal, even science, aggression, orchestral backgrounds, logic, civil issues, and forward thinking, while reaching and elevating myself as a musician and putting on a unique and truly artistic performance, all original.
You got shows. I heard you mention shows. Have you got any scheduled? What's coming up?
All right, so I just got done doing a short little 10-day tour, mostly through like Ohio. I played Louisville and a couple of shows in Indiana. So I got those knocked out. That really helped me, I think, with my experience being up there by myself. But I have a show in Detroit in early June. I have 2 shows in North Carolina in late June, and then I have a whole West Coast tour, which is about 3.5 weeks. I have that from late July to mid-August.
Excellent, man. I that's the first I've heard of that. That's great news, dude. I want to ask you though, because you do play all the instruments. How's the tracking going? And playing live?
Yeah, live it's technical death metal by itself. Just on guitar is not easy, but
Right.
I'm up there by myself. It's a drum and bass backing track, and then I play the guitars and all the solos, and I do all the vocals up there.
That's intense, man. Now, let me ask you this. At some point, do you plan on, want to, or don't want to add other musicians to the band?
I don't see a reason. I don't have a real big reason to, so I'm going to try to do it by myself.
Cool.
I might always, take some time off and maybe work on another project like 5 years from now or something like that. But
No.
I'll always fall back on this and do it by myself probably.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Definitely don't have any creative differences there.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in my head sometimes, especially with all these crazy changes and stuff like that. Where
Sure, yeah. Now, for listeners who don't know, where can they go to get Deviance merchandise and music?
all right, so right now the best place to go is I have some information on my Facebook. It's facebook.com/Deviance666. That's probably your favorite website. I have all my stuff for sale on there, and you can always contact me through there. I'm on there very consistently. I'm also consistent on YouTube and Twitter, but all my stuff for sale is on Facebook. Plenty of stuff if you want to get something.
All right, well, Michael, I have heard many of the songs on the album and intend on actually buying the album very soon. And I want to encourage our Great Metal Debate listeners to do that. Check out Deviance666 at Facebook. Check out Michael and the music and merchandise of Deviance. You will not be disappointed. Michael, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me, Brian.